this
Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes. A few people are just coming on, so we'll just give them a couple of minutes to join in. Okay, so thank you for joining me for the webinar tonight. I'm Jonathan Davies. I'm the CEO of the Nuyew Tech Academy. As you can see, we've titled this webinar Insider Tips and Training with Nuyew Tech Academy. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about what we do, and then we'll dive into some tips that will hopefully help you in getting your first role. Just a few pointers on the webinar. We've got a chat, so if you've got any questions during the webinar, please just put them in the chat and I'll try and keep on top of them and answer them as we go through. But also, if there's at the end, I've got 15 minutes or Q&A time frame, so if I don't get through them during it, I can obviously address them at the end, so please keep those questions coming in. There's also a poll as well, which would be really useful for us to get some feedback on the sort of things you're looking for and if you found this useful. So to start off with, our agenda today. So I'll introduce myself and our academy and what we do. We'll talk a little bit about the tech industry, and then we'll dive in. So we'll talk about CVs, we'll talk about LinkedIn profile, we'll talk about some job search strategies, we'll talk about application process and a very common subject, Applicant Tracking Systems, ATS. We'll talk about applying for the right roles, and then we'll talk about for just 5 minutes at the end, we'll talk a little bit more about what we do, how we support people in careers, and how we help people find work. And then we've got our Q&A session. So hopefully you find this webinar useful. And like I said, please keep the questions coming in during the webinar, and I'd be delighted to help them. So a little bit about myself. I'm Jonathan. I'm the CEO of the Nuyew Tech Academy. I've been CEO since the Academy started. Our mission at Nuyew Tech Academy is to help people who are looking to transition into tech roles achieve those tech roles, and we do that in 3 ways. We provide certification in entry, intermediate qualifications across a wide range of tech disciplines, including cybersecurity, data analytics, and all the main tech subjects. We provide comprehensive career support to help people get into work and find that all-important first role. And part of today will obviously be a sample of how we do that. And the other thing we do is we help with funding. So we appreciate that getting into tech industry is expensive and costly experience. So we try and reduce that as much as possible and help with a variety of funding options, from scholarship schemes to interest-free student loans to installment plans. So a wide range of things to help as many people as we possibly can achieve their dream of getting into the tech industry. So today, we're not going to focus too much on certification. We're not going to focus too much on what are the right qualifications. So I'm going to assume either you have some qualifications already, you're looking to do some qualifications, or you're currently studying certifications, in which case, after the webinar, I'll send you a little bit more about certification and what we do and how we can help from that point of view. But we're going to assume the starting point today is people that have either come through our academy and have achieved some certification, or have got certification elsewhere and are looking for some help and guidance. So let's assume that's the starting point. So you've done some qualifications, or you're currently studying qualifications, you're looking to get that first role in the tech industry. And what I'm going to run through is, in my experience as CEO, I've obviously seen thousands of CVs, listened to thousands of questions. And what I've done, I mean, we're not going to answer every question today, but I've just sort of picked out some really high flavor things that come through more often than not. And when I speak to students who come to us and want to join the academy and want to try and get into work, and they've been trying for a long time and haven't been getting anywhere, there's usually some quite common themes that we can help with quite quickly and get them on their way. So I'm just going to cover those off today, and hopefully you find them useful. Okay, so a bit about the tech industry. Obviously we get asked a lot about it. So I think what we're seeing at the moment, the biggest areas of demand for us as an academy is definitely cybersecurity. Data science or data analytics is very large now, getting bigger. AI, I'll come back to in a sec, but we include that in all our career pathways. And cloud computing, which is obviously booming as well, especially since COVID. That's been a massive rise. With AI, we include it in every pathway. One of the questions I'll just address is, when it comes to recruitment, we get asked a lot about what will AI do to the market? Will it replace jobs? And I think I always answer this the same way. Technology moves on. And if you think about when the computer was it's really sort of taking it back to basics. When the computer was invented, people were afraid it would replace jobs, but actually it created a whole new range of jobs that you are looking to get into right now. So, we see AI the same thing. So what we see with the AI is not that it's replacing jobs, it is replacing some jobs, but in most cases, it's helping people do their jobs better, freeing them up to do more advanced things, or people are needed to be able to train these large models and adapt them properly. So the challenge with AI is really how to adopt it. So every business wants to use it. How do we adopt it? How do we use it in the right application? So we include it in everything. My advice would be, any area of tech you're looking at, you need to embrace AI. You need to be able to understand it, use it. But that's for a different day. But there's certainly nothing to worry about with AI. And for us as an academy and as a sector in the tech sector, it's certainly very exciting. Okay, so we're looking then at why in tech. So we see a lot of people that come into it. We have some people that come straight from school into it. We also have people that have other work, and they're often quite surprised how much their previous experience is valid in the work that they can do in tech. So we'll talk a bit more about that when we get into the presentation. And obviously the other good thing about the tech industry, salaries continue to increase, job security is good. There's a lot of opportunities of hybrid working, flexible working, travel, contract work if people fancy it. So this is a real big range, and also as well, people talk about tech, but within the tech world itself, there's such a range of different career pathways. So obviously it is a start. So you can start, one pathway, say cybersecurity, and maybe end up in something else that, that doesn't matter. Just get into what you want to get into. The final part I'll just put on that is, people talk about which one I should get into. They'll ask me which one's the best paid, which one's the easiest to get into, which one's going to grow the most, and what we always say is, if you're sitting there asking these questions today, just sit back and think, what's my passion? What do I really enjoy? What makes me want to get out of bed in the morning and learn more and really enjoy it? And if you're not sure, there's lots of little courses, free courses out there you can do, in whether it be cybersecurity or cloud computing, just to see what you like. And obviously we can obviously help with that. I'll explain that. Okay, so that's a bit about me, a bit about our academy, a bit about the industry. But let's talk about why you're here and how we can perhaps help with some recruitment challenges. So let's assume the starting point is you've got some certifications. Either you've joined our academy, you've got certifications, or you've got certifications, or you're working towards certifications elsewhere. Let's assume they're the right certifications first of all, because in a lot of cases they're not necessarily the right certifications, but that's not what today is about. But let's say that you're in a position where you've got some certifications, they're the right ones that employers look for, and you're getting your CV together, which is the first step in any process in finding a role. So common things we see. So when I get a CV through, very, very obvious stuff, like you see someone applying for a tech role and their introduction is all about that they've done some other role before. It's not tailored towards tech. It's not the introduction, the profile isn't about tech. It's not explaining their passion for tech. The work experience is ordered in such a way that it's totally unrelated roles. And you just got to put yourself in the eyes of a recruiter and sit back and say, well, if I was recruiting for a role, would this stand out as someone who is purely onto tech? So it's quite a straightforward thing to do. But maybe get someone else to read your CV as well. We're always happy to have a look at CVs. But that's the first thing I'd put. Just make sure it's a very, very tech specific skill. The other thing, that we find a lot is people say, well, I haven't got any experience in tech. Now, everyone's got experience in tech and everyone's got transferable skills. So the thing to do is to look through your work experience to date, and everyone's got some work experience. And if you haven't, you've got life experience. So there'll be something there that relates. So I'll give you some examples. You may have, worked in retail, but been exposed to, retail systems that had problems or needed to be repaired, or, supported those systems in some way. Other things are teamwork, leadership, ability to work on your own, ability to work to deadlines. The tech industry is like every other industry. You need to be able to do these things, and they're very important for any role. So the other thing, we're going to talk about ATS, application tracking systems, in a little bit. But what we need to do is just make sure the CV. So if you're applying for certain job roles, let's say, for example, cybersecurity analyst roles, then we need the word cybersecurity analyst in the profile, in the CV somewhere. And I'll explain in a bit more detail as we go through how that actually works. And then the other thing is to quantify achievement. So quite often we'll say, I worked at this company and I improved this process. Okay, so that's great, but actually if you can put numbers to that. So for example, I increased efficiency by 25% by improving a process, suggesting it to my manager. That is much more powerful than just saying I improved something. So if you can quantify, at any stage, if you can quantify the actual improvements you made, that's really, really useful. And then complex design. So again, we keep talking about application tracking systems. I'm going to go into a bit more detail in that. And all it is in layman's terms is the bit of software, the system, the CRM system, effectively, that a recruitment agency or an internal recruiter will use. So just use simple designs. Okay, we get asked a lot about formatting. Keep it simple, keep it straight to the point, make it easy to read, have someone else read it, and always the basics, as a final point, just check your grammar, check, your formatting is consistent, spelling, grammar, all those things. You don't want to let yourself down on those things. Final thing, we'd always recommend having it as a PDF if possible. So, if you've got Microsoft Word or something like that, you can print to PDF. It's very simple to do. Google it if you're not sure how to do it, but it's free. Produce the PDF, and that's how we would recommend issuing CVs. Obviously, a lot of the job boards have their own CV builders, which is a different thing. Okay, so moving on, talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So just as a rough guide, 90% of recruiters, approximately 90% of people recruiting, so that's recruitment agencies or internal recruiters, will use LinkedIn. And one of the first things people will do if you get to a stage where they're interested in you is they will look at your LinkedIn profile. So what we find quite often is the CV is not aligned, the CV is not aligned with the right tech job, and then the LinkedIn is even hardly cared for, not looking like a professional person who's engaged. What is interesting is what we find when we look at most people's LinkedIn is they are doing all the right things. They're just not updating their LinkedIn profile to reflect that. So they are attending industry events. They are doing their own learning in their own time. They are seeking out people for advice and guidance, but they're just not reflecting that on LinkedIn. So we'll go through some practical tips here. So the first thing is optimize your LinkedIn profile. So you'll see when you go into LinkedIn, there's a profile and you can update that. So for example, aspiring cybersecurity analyst with a passion for tech, always learning, you can have, this sort of language is the sort of language you need in your profile, so people can see straight away what you've done, currently studying or currently, learning new skills, whatever it is, just really bringing out really strong from a tech point of view. And that summary is, everything. If you're not sure, have a look at, other people's profiles, maybe some people who are in the industry already, some senior people, have a look at that. And then the other thing you can do, of course, is I'm sure many of you are ChatGPT users, but there's some good things you can use that for, particularly around it. Just be careful about it being obvious that you've used ChatGPT. So if you're going to use it, make sure that use it as like a prompt in the first instance. Make sure it's particularly in the UK relative to English language, not US English, and just make sure that it really reflects you and it isn't just an obvious AI produced summary. Groups. Really, this is really important. Oh, sorry, on the LinkedIn as well. Really important then, just make sure all your certifications are on there. If you're studying somewhere already, like all our students at Nuyew, we connect with them, I connect with them, we endorse them, we put that they're currently studying with us, we update as they complete the certifications. So we are all, people can see straight away that they're part of the academy. They've got connections in the industry with people like ourselves, and then they meet other people through those connections. Connect with tech professionals. There's loads of LinkedIn groups. So let's say cybersecurity, you're using that a lot. I know, looking at the people that attended today, a lot of you have an interest in cybersecurity. So there's lots of cybersecurity groups. Try and get involved with them. Try and comment on them. Try and add articles if you see something interesting, or ask questions. Be part of these communities. Be active. And then also, job search on LinkedIn. There's lots of jobs on there. It's very straightforward to do. It brings people back to your profile, which is great if you apply. So it's a great way of aligning everything up. People get a much more review of a person on a full LinkedIn profile than if they're just looking at a blank CV. So that's the LinkedIn. So those two are sort of the corner pins. So really getting those and really focus. If you're not currently working in tech and you're not in a job where your employer is going to get offended by you openly looking for work on LinkedIn, or then you really need your CV and your LinkedIn profile just to scream of, I am a tech professional, I'm an aspiring tech professional, I am everything tech, and that is your starting point. So once we're at that point, that's the point then where we can move to the next stage, which is the application process. So we talked about, I was talking to a student last week actually, and they'd had so many different opinions about application tracking systems. So I wanted to sort of demyth that a little bit today, give you some practical sort of tips on what they are, how to get around them, and also a bit of encouragement, because I think the industry has changed a bit with the onset of application tracking systems, and that a lot of candidates just don't get feedback or hear back. So it's quite difficult to know, if you're not being successful, it can be quite difficult for you to keep getting rejections and not know why. But we'll talk a little bit about why that might be and how we can reduce. But to start with, so we're talking about applicant tracking systems. So what is an applicant tracking system? So if you're not familiar, it's basically like a CRM system, but it's what recruiters use. So it's a bit of software normally hosted in the cloud that enables either recruitment agencies or internal recruiters to manage applicants, and they go right across the application process. So you can post jobs to job boards, to LinkedIn from within an application tracking system, from within the recruitment software. You can then ask people to apply, and in terms of that, there's two ways people apply typically. So an employer will either say, apply here, and it comes through. So some of them are held on the job boards, but what I would say is, most high-level recruiters of jobs of this nature would want the applicant to come through from the job board, diverted into their system, so they have the details of the candidate, and they do that either by the CV, get the candidate applying for the job with the CV, or an application form. So today we're talking about the CV, which is probably the most common way. So let's talk through the process. So you click on, let's say, Indeed, which is probably the best known job board. There's a job you like, you read it, you think, right, my CV matches this. I've updated my keywords in my CV. If it's a cover letter it's asked for, you've got your cover letter customized to that business. It talks about, and when I mean customized, put the company name in there, maybe a few key points from the company's mission statement, or just do your research. And what we always say as well, we have people saying, I've applied for 200 jobs, haven't gotten anywhere. Maybe reduce that a little bit and just really personalize the application that you're putting in, which should increase your chance of success. So the way it works then is you apply, and what these systems use is basically what we call CV parsers. So these will read the CV, take the data off it, and then put it into fields within the recruitment software, within the applicant tracking system. So it will scrape first name, last name, email address, experience, education. So it's really, really important that you have your CV clearly laid out with titles on each section, really simple formatting, so the ATS can actually read it, because if it fails the parsing, so if it can't be read, then you won't even get to the first step. A bit of a tip on this is a good website called JobScan, where you can build your CV, put it into a PDF and feed it in, and that will give you, it will show you how the parser system works. If your CV gets read properly, all the data is extracted from it and it gets added to it, then you know that you're good to go with the applications. Okay, so that ATS then, and this is the key part. If you haven't got, let's say it's looking for a cybersecurity analyst and they're looking for, let's say, a degree of some sort, if you haven't got a degree, then don't apply for the job, because you're not going to get it for two reasons. One, because they're looking for someone with a degree, and secondly, because it won't get past the applicant tracking system. So really, really important, when you apply for roles, make sure that you're reading the job application properly, and then aligning that application and making sure that you tick all the boxes. You can push it a little bit in some areas, but there's some black and whites that you just can't, so there's no point, you're just wasting your time. So when you do apply, then make sure the CV has got keywords in it. And it may be that we'll come on to it in our next section, but we tend to encourage our students to have maybe 2 or 3 CVs targeted at different roles. And then the ATS will basically bring that in, and that's normally a first stage. Is that CV worth looking at? And that's where it's certain boxes have been ticked in terms of qualifications, experience, or whatever it is that they're looking for, and that will push it through then to the hiring team, who will then start to look at it and develop it down the process. Okay, so what today is about really is getting into that point where a human being is looking at your CV, looking at your application, looking at your LinkedIn profile, and hopefully bringing you forward for an interview. Okay, so that's applicant tracking systems, and hopefully we've demystified those a little bit for you. Okay, applying for the right role. So this is one of the most common things that we see. So we get a lot of our students are, have done a qualification already in cybersecurity or some cybersecurity qualifications, or even degrees, master's degrees. And they obviously come to us for two things. One is vocational qualifications to put alongside what they've already done, industry recognised qualifications versus, say, academic qualifications, which go really well together. So it's another question we get asked a lot. No way is better together. They're great. Independently, they're great. But vocational qualifications, like we do, like the likes of CompTIA, Microsoft, vendor qualifications are very, very important in IT. Anyway, for a different day. So focus on the right roles. So what we find as well, when we say to people they've had 100 job applications and they're struggling to get any feedback, or people aren't getting back to them, unfortunately, like I said earlier, a lot of recruiters won't even respond to a CV, won't tell them why. They'll just either get an email saying you're not being successful, or nothing, worse still, nothing at all. And most of that is done digitally at the start point. So what we find when applying for the right roles, so this is a little section just to think about the right role, and are you making the right choices when you're applying. Okay, so the starting point we would make is you've all come into it to build a career in tech. You've all looking at doing certifications with us, or you're looking at doing certifications elsewhere, or you're already studying. Okay, and you have aspirations to be senior in the IT industry, which is 100% right, and it's exactly what you should be doing. Okay, however, what you must do is you must see particularly things, the tech fields, data analytics, cybersecurity. These are not overnight careers. These are akin to medicine or accountancy, or these sort of careers where it does take a little bit of time to break in and then to develop. However, the flip side is once you're in the career, they're very lucrative. They've got huge opportunities, and they can move forward the rest of your life and keep developing. So it's just having that sort of attitude, and not saying, okay, I'm going to go from where I am today straight into an advanced cybersecurity role on very high level job, very good money. It does happen. We do get people who get taken into more senior roles sometimes, particularly if they've got a little bit of IT experience before. But more common than not, we sort of advise people just to, not stop going for the best jobs they can, but also just to cover that off with going for entry-level roles. There's a really, really, really funny thing, particularly in the UK, where you have a year's experience, the job opportunities that are available to you are incredible. You have 2 years experience and the doors really start opening. So think of it as, okay, I want to work in cybersecurity, and the best case, I get an internship, or I get a trainee role in cybersecurity, or someone willing to invest in me. Worst case, you say, okay, I'm going to do an IT support job, or a network administrator, or a cloud job, or all things you'd be able to do with the qualifications either through ourselves or what you've already got. And then there's a couple of good things about this. So first of all, you'll get an experience, and secondly, what we find is, which is invaluable, is these roles tend to pay better than roles. So say, for example, we've got a student that's working in a supermarket to fund themselves while they're studying, which is a noble thing to do. Or the care sector is quite common as well. Actually going into an entry-level role not only pays significantly more, but also it's relative tech experience. The other thing it does is it really helps. We have some students who are not sure what area they want to go into. So if you're working in an IT company that's got multiple facets to it, it does help you shape where you want to go with your tech career as well. Because as we all know in life, sometimes what it actually is quite different to what you thought it is, and you might find that you have a passion for something else. So there's loads of benefits. There's no downsides, and our strategy on this would be maybe think, okay, what am I qualified to do? And obviously our students, we help with this. So we say, look, these are the range of IT jobs you can do at each stage of your career with us. So, and then we target them. So we have a specific CV for each one. The LinkedIn profile we'd have to make quite neutral, but the CVs then we'd make quite specific to each role. So let me give you an example of how this works in both. So let's say you are just in the middle of a cybersecurity course, either with us or someone else, or at uni, and you start applying for cybersecurity analyst jobs that are looking for some sort of experience. That they're just not going to look at the CV. So it has to be internships, entry level roles, unless you've got some great IT experience before, or experience that we could pull together to put forward. Now, there's no problem applying for the roles, as long as you appreciate two things. One is your success rate is going to be slightly lower, and also so you might get more rejections, but also that if you get those rejections, you sort of take them the right way. But there's absolutely no reason if you're someone that doesn't mind getting knockbacks and you're happy to keep applying for those roles, then it's absolutely fine. We just don't want people's confidence to be affected when actually they're not doing anything wrong. Take it the other way. You've just completed a master's degree in cybersecurity and you're just trying to get a job in tech, and you apply with your master's degree with all these skills to an IT support help desk role. The hiring manager will look at it and say, this person doesn't want to do IT help desk support. What they want to do is cybersecurity. They'll just come here for a month until they get another job and then they'll leave. So it's really, really important that we have a story, and this is where separate CVs come in. Where I'll give you an example. You're applying for a cybersecurity role with a degree. I have a degree in computer science or master's degree. I'm applying for a role in entry-level cybersecurity. Same time, you're applying for a network administrator role or a data center or whatever it might be. I've completed my studies and I'm looking to break in the entry level in IT so I can develop my experience and then eventually move into cybersecurity or cloud engineering, whatever it is. So those are quite different things that present the same person in two different ways and give you a strong chance of succeeding. Qualification is really important. If a job asks for a qualification and you haven't got it, don't bother applying. We've put a stat up here where you meet 70% of the qualifications, but read the job adverts. It's very easy on things like Indeed to make one click and apply for things. But like we say, more is not always better. We get some students who apply for hundreds of jobs, don't hear anything back, so just applying for the wrong jobs. We've got others that will apply for 5 or 10 a week and get plenty of interviews just because they're following the guidance and the process correctly. So really check the qualifications they're looking for. Experience is another one. If someone's asking for 2 years of experience in a relevant role and you haven't got it, you're not going to get that role unless you know someone there or you can somehow LinkedIn with them. But we'll talk about that in a sec. Don't just target big name companies. Consider startups and mid-sized firms. So one of the things we recommend, so we work with Barclays Eagle Labs, which is a startup incubator sponsored by Barclays Bank. They do sort of tech get-togethers. There's lots of startups and mid-sized firms. Now, this isn't necessarily where there come some risks with those sort of companies. The flip side is you're more likely to get thrown in the deep end quicker, get lots of experience much quicker. The flip side is it could be a bit unstable. The advantage of the tech industry is most of the students we talk to live in a city or near a big city where there's lots of opportunity. So I would sort of experience for you, making sure learning, helping you, and really developing you. That these things are key over. So 6 months. If it's 6 months of really, really good experience with a company that's really investing, that's better than 2 years at somewhere that's just getting to a Monday task and not utilizing your skills, particularly if it's a big company. So just think about startups, and there's lots of websites around for startups specifically, where they're more community based, where they haven't got the budgets to recruit people, where they haven't got recruitment agencies to help them, and then that's a really useful source that you might find, particularly particularly if you've got a good mix of skills. So you can you're quite broad in terms of your skill set. So our students, we would always encourage them to be quite broad in terms of being able to do different things within their tech sector, so they can be quite multifunctional. We talked about tailor each application to match the job description. That's really, really important. And then the other thing we find as well is there's some really interesting websites. So I'm picking on cybersecurity because it's one of our most popular ones, and I know a lot of you today are here to to find out a bit more about cybersecurity. So a couple of examples. We partner with a company called Cybersecurity Job Site. It's pure cybersecurity. They have people like Rolls-Royce, British Aerospace Systems, big banks. All these companies are on there, and they go through there. So it's pure cybersecurity, and you might just find, rather than generic sort of job boards, things like Indeed or things like that, you might find a lot more traction on these sorts of sites. Another good area is the government website. So there's lots of government jobs. We place a lot of our students with government roles, whether it be help desk, cybersecurity, data analytics. NHS is a very big employer of IT professionals, very, very well structured. Good opportunities to move, good pay. So that's something that the government is actually an area that people often overlook. Maybe on the high profile things like some of the high profile cybersecurity jobs, obviously, but there's such a big employer nationwide in the UK that there are so many jobs there. The other thing, if any of you are overseas students, they are good at sponsorships as well. So that's a good place to go for several reasons. The other thing I want to talk about quickly was recruitment events. So with the internet, it's great in terms of you can apply for lots of things, but so the business we work with, cybersecurity job sites, they have a sister company called Cybersecurity Expo. And these travel around the UK, so make a note of that website. And they're just great for loads of reasons. You can go to the expo, it's free to go. You can meet people, all the big employers will be there, there'll be talks from guest speakers, and you can actually talk face-to-face to people. You can show them your CV, you can ask them for advice, guidance, ask them if you're doing the right things, get some free tips. And then obviously from there, you can link in with these people on LinkedIn. So it was nice to meet you today, really enjoyed, can we stay in touch, can we connect? And you start building that network of people, and that really helps if you know people, in the recruitment world, and maybe, we have lots of stories where people have gone to an expo, tried to get into a cybersecurity role, not quite experienced enough, gone and done something else, gone back to that person, and then got the job, which is just lovely. So that's really important. Get to expos, and the other thing is, for a lot of you, you're probably studying at home quite a lot now, or doing jobs that aren't related to tech. It can be a lonely old time sometimes, so applying for roles. Obviously, with our students, we make a point of making sure that they're constantly checking in with us and supporting them. But I think also, more importantly, these expos are really good because there'll be lots of people like yourselves looking to get into IT, excited about it, sharing ideas, sharing things that work well, things that have not worked so well, and it just really opens your eyes. And if you're ever feeling a bit, am I really going to get there? You go to an expo like this, and it just picks you up and gives you that boost again to keep going, because you will get there. Everyone gets there if they just follow the right process and keep going. So that's kind of that's a bit about applying for the right roles. The other bit I just wanted to cover on the job application process is really just thinking about other sort of places that people might be looking for roles. So this is where forums are quite good. So we've mentioned a couple of websites here, we've mentioned a couple of expos. There'll be other things out there where people will say, oh, have you checked out this network or this group are sharing ideas. So some really good, just think outside the little box a little bit. It's just not all about the job boards, and that's where the jobs are. Use LinkedIn, use the bespoke websites that recruitment websites, sector specific, startup specific. There might be websites specific for tech roles in, well, like the NHS, for example, is on the government website, or it might be financial services, IT roles. And then the last thing really that's well worth doing, so we're a nationwide partner with Hays Recruitment. Hays are one of the biggest tech recruiters in the UK, worldwide actually. And we've talked a lot about the UK today, but predominantly our students are UK based, but we can help with overseas. But the processes you follow are basically the same, whether you're in the UK or abroad. So it's well worth registering with an agency. So we partner with Hays, very professional, got lots of roles. If you register with Hays Technical Recruitment, they will basically look at your CV, they'll have a chat with you, get a chance to talk to a recruiter, get some feedback, someone who's recruiting every day. They're obviously incentivized to try and find you a job, but you'll get feedback and you'll get learning, and that really helps as well. And also just having someone else do some legwork for you and try and find you a role. The other thing they do is a lot of, they're very, very aware, these recruitment agencies, that there's a skills gap. So years ago, they would focus on experienced people and just trying to place those into big companies. Now they realize that they've got to nurture the talent, the newer talent coming into the industry, so that in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time, these will be the people that will be, headhunted and moved around for the top jobs. So they're really, really keen on nurturing people like yourselves who just come into the industry, helping you. There's a lot of free events. They do guest speakers. I went to a cybersecurity event last week with Hayes. Really interesting. There's some guest speakers, really good sort of senior, high-profile people. We had a lot of our students there, just really exposing them to the industry and how they move forward, and they're just great events. So, yeah. So hopefully that's some tips. So we've kind of covered today. We've kind of looked at the CVs, looked at LinkedIn profile, and then we've looked at applying for the right roles. What I'm just going to talk about now, just for 5 minutes, and I'll give you a chance to ask me any questions, is just really about what we do in terms of our career support. So it's a typical student journey, and hopefully this is useful for 2 reasons. One is you see what it kind of takes to get a role in tech, and you get some learning from it. But also, if you were to join our academy, then we would be able to support you in this way, and you can see, how we might be able to help you. So we focus very much on personal coaching. So when I talk to students personally, they get a lot of advice from a lot of different people. Now, there's a lot of people out there who will explain, this is what you need to do with the CV, and they're forever changing their CV, forever changing, their LinkedIn profile, whatever. But what I would say is, you need to work with people like ourselves, or recruiters, or people that are doing the actual recruiting, rather than people that have got the jobs. So, because at the end of the day, they're at the sharp end. If someone's got a job, that doesn't necessarily make them an expert on the recruitment process or 100% themselves. It just means they've probably done a good job and they've done well in an interview. Whereas, understanding from a professional recruiter like ourselves, or an agency, or an in-house recruiter, really what is looked for is very, very important. So we then work through, we talk a lot with our students about, just sitting back. So a lot of the time we'll say, well, where do you want to be in 2 or 3 years? And they haven't even thought about it. They just want to get a job in tech. And we just sort of slow it down a bit and say, look, where do you want to go? Why do you want to do that particular thing? Does it interest you? Why does it excite you so much? Let's just take it back from there, and let's just draw this line out then over maybe 2 or 3 years, and just see how we can get you there, and the different routes we could take, and the different strategies we can use. And that career coaching really helps. Also checking in with people, common thing for us. I've got an interview, can we do a dummy interview? What are they going to ask me? We have access to a wide range of, through our community and our current students and ex-students of our company partners, we have a wide range of the sort of questions that are going to get asked. So we prepare people pretty well. We, as a business, so we have an employment guarantee. So what that basically means is any students that come on board with us, they come on board with us, they start training. We provide industry recognized certifications that are in demand in the industry. They study those for normally 6 to 12 months, that area. And then if a student is in a position where they finish certifications within that time frame and they haven't secured employment, and we start the employment process from day one, so we're unique in that sense, in that the day a student joins our academy, we're starting work on all the CV, the LinkedIn profile, all of that, just so that we know we're ready. And actually, if someone's got some qualifications and they're just looking for an entry-level role, that's enough. We can work with that in a month or 2 of learning. So, but if someone, unlike the event, they haven't got a role after 12 months, and we just keep providing training, so we keep providing certification aligned with their career pathway. So it might be more advanced in what they're already doing, or we might complement what they're doing with something from a different one, like, for example, Python or databases, or I'm just giving examples of things that might help someone get that first job. What we do then is we keep doing that for 3 years, and if our students aren't successful after 3 years, then we have a tuition fee which is refunded to the students. So we're really confident. We provide personal support, and that's how kind of we help our students get in. Today, as part of what we've done today, obviously I've done quite a lot of talking, but I will, on the next slide, share my email address. We're happy to help. We help a lot of people who approach us just for some generic career advice. In return, we ask that you review what we do and consider joining our academy. So for today, I'll leave my email on the last slide. If you've got a CV that you want to look at, or you want some advice, or you even want to jump on a call with myself or one of the team, always more than happy to talk to people looking to get into tech. So please get in touch. We will also send you an email after the webinar, just summarising what we've done and with some further information. And then the last bit is we have an alumni of students in the community, and I just can't stress that enough. Really, it's quite hard when you're first starting out to get into tech, and it can be quite soul destroying. You've probably got some people around you saying it's difficult, go and get a different job, those types of things. Being around people that have been on your same journey or on the same journey as you, or more importantly, have been on it and got there and succeeded, it's really important to be around those people. So communities, alumni, those things are very, very, very important. Industry events, just meeting other people on the same journey as you. Okay, so as I said, I'm Jonathan. I hope you found that useful. I'm the CEO. We'd love to hear from you. So this is my email address here. You can write that down. Feel free to email me personally following it. I'd love to know, your feedback on the webinar. I'd love to know if you think we could have included anything differently. As I said, it's not meant to be the answer to everything. It's just a brief introduction to a particular aspect, which is, how to get your CV, LinkedIn ready, how to apply for roles, and hopefully get to that interview stage. We'll be doing more webinars on different areas, like certifications, interview process, different job types. But today was just about that. So I really hope you found it useful. We have some polls as well. If you just fill those in, that'd be really, really helpful. And yeah, please drop me an email. If you've got any questions, I'll just give you a couple of minutes to put them in your chat. I haven't got any yet that I can see. So give you a couple of minutes. So either I've done a very, very good job of answering all your questions, or it's getting quite late in the evening and you're all ready to have something to eat or chill out, or probably study or look for jobs. Okay, so if no one's got any questions, like I said, we'll drop you a quick email anyway, so you can get in touch. Thank you for attending tonight. We're really pleased that you're able to take the time. Pleased to meet you all online, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. Thank you for your time this evening. Have a good evening.